Hi, it's Warren Hewitt here with Produce Like a Pro. Hope you're doing marvelously well. We are going to check out the Focusrite Scarlett Studio. The Focusrite Scarlett Studio is a studio in a box. It's an interface, it is headphones, and also a microphone. It also comes with Cubase LE, which is the light version of Cubase. I don't actually use Cubase. I did years ago, but I use Pro Tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the interface, the headphones, and the microphone with Pro Tools 10, which I have on my laptop over here. So let's open it up. So here we have it. We have an interface. So here we have two mic pre's. You have an XLR input around the outside here, and on the inside you have a 1/4 inch input. This 1/4 inch input is selectable between line and instrument. And the reason for that is that you'll get different impedance for each one of those inputs. For a line input, you're probably going to have a lot of output. So if you wanted to take a synthesizer, which can have a ton of output, you select it to line. If it's an instrument like a DI from a guitar, it would be a lot lower input. So it's probably padding the input stage. So it's like a pad for the DI. And here we have a gain control here, obviously for our preamp, which works for everything. Obviously the mic pre, whether it be line, instrument, or XLR input. So you have two of those which are identical. So you can do stereo keyboards, you can do guitar, bass, stereo, miking on instruments, etc. So it covers most things, to be honest, with the exception of doing like a full drum kit. You could probably do 90% of recording using this. Okay, here is your phantom on-off for your condenser microphone. Here is a control allowing you to listen to the direct signal or the monitor signal. What that would mean is like if you just wanted to listen to the input coming in here or the monitor, the actual mix. Here is an overall volume control which goes to our outputs on the back. If I flip it around, you'll see a left and right output. These would go to powered speakers or a power amp and speakers. But presumably in a setup like this, I would just have a pair of small powered speakers. And then last but no means least is our headphone control. So obviously if I was working on my own, which I'm going to be, I would just turn down the monitors if there was monitors attached and just monitor using the headphones. Also on the back is, of course, the USB connection, which goes into our computer. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Nicely laid out, makes perfect sense to me. USB cable to connect it. Next is our microphone. It's a little mini condenser. It's not tiny, but it's a smaller condenser. It's a cardioid condenser. 90% of the time you're only going to use your microphone on cardioid anyway. If you wanted to use hyper or super cardioid, that would be in a live situation or where you have a lot of mics going on the same source. I rarely, even when I'm using expensive mics like U67s or U87s, I very rarely use them on anything except for cardioid unless I'm using them as an omni position in a room or a figure of 8 where I'm trying to get a source on either side. 99% of the time, I'm on cardioid. So this will get you through most situations. Straightforward looking little mic. I'm assuming this is the front. As per usual, you've got logo and cardioid symbol on the front. Mic cable. It's all nicely in red for Scarlett. How unusual. Great thinking. Okay, so there's our mic cable. Mic clip. And last but no means least, a pair of Focusrite Scarlett headphones. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice I did a 5 key components of a recording studio when you're first starting. And this pretty much covers most of it. You've got your DIW, you've got your microphone, interface, and headphones. I mean, this is the beginning of making music. So it's a good little thing. I'm glad that they make this because a lot of people, there's so much choice in headphones and microphones and interfaces, and a lot of them are very comparable. So I'm glad that somebody's done an all-in-one system like this because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Because ultimately, if you end up buying this and you become like an incredible producer, engineer, you're going to change out things as you go. You might change your headphones. What you first might do is get a more expensive mic, etc., etc. So it's nice to get it all in one go and take that choice out. So let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so let's just quickly connect it. Pretty straightforward. Two completely different cables. So even if I try, I couldn't plug it in the wrong end, and trust me, I would if I could. Okay. And it lit up. Yay! We have power. Okay, let us open Pro Tools. We have, I have Pro Tools 10 on this laptop. Not the latest and greatest, but the one that works really well on this laptop. This is an old laptop, at least by modern standards. It's about 6 years old. All right, so let's create a rock guitar setting. So let's just save it on the desktop as rock guitar, focusrite. Great. Okay, let's make it large. Comes with and without an adapter, which is nice, which means I can use this straight. So these could be my headphones. This is actually quite obviously useful, because if I do end up using these headphones and liking them, I might want to monitor and use them for lots of different sources, because being familiar with something is probably more important than the product itself. Like if you know these headphones inside and out and you use them in different sources, then you're going to be able to mix on them, because you'll be able to use to hearing mixes on them. Okay, so let's change our playback engine in Pro Tools to see the Focusrite. Dun, dun, dun. And Scarlett 2i2 USB comes in. Now I didn't load any drivers, so that's nice. It just recognizes it straight away. God bless it. I think on a PC you might have to load the drivers, but on an Apple it comes up straight away. So it's going to reopen the session now. Put on the headphones. Yeah, there it is. The headphones sound good. I'm used to using ultrasone headphones, and they have a lot of highs and a really tough mid-range. This is a little softer in the mid-range. Good bottom end, but definitely usable. And like I was saying earlier, if you know your headphones, that's more important, because I could take this adapter off and plug it into my iPhone and listen to some music and get used to hearing, you know, great recordings and mixes, and then when I plug back in here, my ears are going to be accustomed to it. So, all right, so let's try out the mic pre's. Let's do a guitar. Let's start on an electric guitar part. We have a loop ready to go here. We'll just write a song and try this thing out. Let's plug in our Pacifica here. For those of you who've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I like this guitar a lot. And one of the things I like about it is it costs about $600 and has Seymour Duncan pickups. Okie dokie, so let's have a listen. Okay, so we're going to have to go in here and set up our I/O properly. Okay, I'm not sure why it did that. It might just be, you know, because we changed to the Focusrite from the I/O, but you can see I just dragged it over. Hopefully it will come to life. Let's go to our rhythm guitar. Okay, so we're on instrument. We're plugged into the middle here. Gain's on 0 at the moment, or nothing, I should say. Okay. It looks like an EQ's come up. Oh, not on, so that's good. But it's there, ready to go. 11 has given us like a vintage CR, whatever that is. There's a little bit of latency. Might not come through on the camera, but I'm just feeling a little bit. Now, it's probably doable if I go to my setup here and go to the hard playback engine, I've got the minimize additional I/O latency on. If I take it off, it's about the same. It's about the same, but let's put it back on. See what it's doing. So here's with the minimize additional I/O latency on. It's okay, but if I mute here, for instance, and select my direct monitor and put it on, I'm just going to hear the DI. There's quite a high output from this pickup, and so my gain's on 0 here. It would lead me to believe that if you had an active guitar, you might have to be careful because, you know, this is just normal passive, you know, Seymour Duncans, but if these were like EMGs or something, had a lot more output or even more powerful active pickups like that, I'm not sure if 0 would be enough here. Cool, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to monitor just the DI so I don't hear the latency. All right, so let's just try making up some funky riff. Cool, let's listen back to that with the effect on. I want to see what it feels like. Kind of works. I mean, what I'm going to do now is just for schnitz and schniggles, is I'm going to play that, you know, monitoring it without the direct on. So let's take the direct off and see if that latency is killing me or not. Cool, I could definitely hear the latency. Let's just see what it's like on the playback. Compare it to this. It's definitely more in the pocket when I don't hear the latency. So that's kind of a nice feature then, you know. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting the direct monitor, so I'm just hearing the signal coming in. And then I am muting it here, and then I'm just hearing the DI. It's not as pleasing to listen to. However, sometimes, you know, obviously you're going to be recording with amps and stuff, so it's not going to be that big of an issue. Okay, so let's take this. So 8 bars of it here. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to do Option R. And I'm going to make that, I don't know, 12. So there we go. Far more than we need. And there we go. Now we have a little guitar part here. Okay, so we tried the DI. Let's try the DI for bass. So we're going to create a bass input. So record a stereo track. The bass one they've given us is an instrument one. So let's do this. I'll do Shift Option D. Active playlist, alternative playlist. No, no, and no. Nothing's grouped, so it doesn't matter. Hit OK, and it just basically duplicates this input here. So that gives us, like, that gives me an amp on it, an EQ ready to go, and I'll just rename it bass guitar. There's the bass already. There's a little bit of peaking there. Let's see what it's like in the track. Because we're not printing with these effects on, I don't have, if I want to do a little less distortion, I like in this grit, but if I want to do a little less, I can obviously adjust it afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off. So I'm not monitoring that. There we go. Cool. So just a quick groove idea to follow that. Same thing. Take 8 bars. Option R. We probably only need 4. And there you go. All right, so that's cool. Let's put the... unmute that and hear it. Kind of like that with the grit on it, but I'm going to bring it down just a little bit on the grit. Cool. Works nicely. Okay. All right. I don't think we need to do any lead guitar. Let's try the microphone input. Okay, great. So we have our Scarlett on a stand here. Our Scarlett mic is called the CM25, by the way. So I'm going to flip it around like this. And I'm going to mic my acoustic. Like so. So what I've got is I've got it somewhere between the 12th and 14th fret. I'm slightly tilted away from the sound hole as well, so it's not too boomy. Okay, so let's plug in our mic. I'm going to go into input 2, so I'll just leave my DI set in. I personally like to leave things as set up as possible because when I'm working on my own and writing, I like to be able to just move quickly between things. So my template here, they don't have something, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a brand new track. Shift, Command, N, create one, new mono audio track, return. Let's call it acoustic. Come in input 2. Hit Phantom. Okay, let's do the same trick. It's on direct monitor, so I'm gonna mute it there. Sounds good. Okay, so let's just jam along. See if I can make up some acoustic guitar to go along with this funky guitar riff. There's something there that works. Okay, we have the occasional peak. I don't really care about that. Option C. Don't reduce your input level just for 1 or 2 tiny peaks. Whatever people tell you, don't. Because an occasional clip is not going to kill you. Cool, that's fine. So let's take that 8-bar section, create a new track here, copy it in, do again, Option R, let's make it 7. There it is. Okay, so now we have an acoustic there. Let's do a really quick mix of our elements. So there it goes. It's kind of nice. I'm gonna solo that acoustic and give it a listen. All right, so this is a really inexpensive system. So that's a pretty darn good sounding mic. I'm not a singer, so I'm going to make something up on the spot and humiliate myself just to see what it sounds like as a vocal mic. Okay, so let's create another audio track because it's going to come in that same input. Same thing, Shift Option D. Don't need the active player, alternative playlist. Nope, just go here, call this vocal. Let's have a listen. Center this again. Okay, so a little bit of a latency I'm hearing. So I'm going to flick over to my direct monitor only. La, la, la. Probably a little hot. I'm not using a pop screen. We're doing this quickly to test it out. So I have no idea what I'm going to sing. I'm not even a singer. I write the songs, but I don't sing them. All right. Okay. Got a little bit of a peak there, which I can't deal with. It went on a little bit too long. So let's just bring the input down a little bit. Occasional transient peak is going to be okay, but when it comes to like a vocal staying red for, you know, that long, we don't want that. Cool. So probably split the difference on the signal. You could get a little bit hotter, but that feels about right. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is do Shift, Option D, and I'm going to leave active playlist. So I'm going to duplicate the whole thing here. Okay, so it's a 4-bar phrase. I'm going to take the second 4 bars, lay it over the first, take the first 4 bars like this, lay them over the second, take it out of record, and let's have a listen. Okay, cool. So it's a very simple little, you know, could be a commercial on TV. There you go. You can write your own commercials. It's really, really straightforward. That's a good sounding mic for... Works perfectly well. Let's put a little, let's see what's comes as standard here. Cool. So we're opening up channel strip here, Pro Tools 1. Just the release time, super fast. Cool. Quick bit of compression there. Put that on both. Great. So there you go. In 15 minutes, we have written and recorded a song. And a Cadbury's commercial coming to you any day. No, that's really straightforward. So it's good. That's a good sounding mic. I mean, it's a really inexpensive system. So obviously I'm using Pro Tools as my DAW because that's what I'm most familiar with. But those of you that are familiar with Cubase, or you're starting off from the beginning, you know, it comes with Cubase LE, and everything I'm just doing there, you're going to be able to do. That's a template that Pro Tools provides with a drum beat already in it. I could play a drum beat in. Obviously, everything else that's on here could be, you know, the only other thing we haven't tested is maybe a line in from a keyboard, but you're going to go in, you're just going to select it to line as opposed to instrument. Otherwise, we've tested all the functions. Really straightforward. You could obviously plug in some powered speakers as well, but we're just keeping it to the things that they supply. Headphones sound good. It's quick and easy to use. Obviously, if you've got questions and stuff on settings and everything, please leave them in the comments below. And thanks for watching Produce Like a Pro.